Thank you for listening to the Kyle and Tim podcast, where we have authentic conversations that help cultivate a better understanding of ourselves, our guests, and the world we live in. This podcast is about our guests, getting to know them, their backgrounds, experiences, thoughts, and ideas. We really appreciate you listening. Before we introduce our next guest, we'd like to introduce a few of our sponsors that help make this podcast possible.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Mountain Mule Transportation, located here in Bozeman, Montana. Mountain Mule is a private SUV and truck service, offering chauffeur services in all of Southwest Montana. Whether it's your next skiing, hunting, or fishing trip, early morning or late night trips to and from Bozeman Airport, as well as weddings and private parties. No matter the occasion, Mountain Mule will get you there safely and on time. To learn more, visit mountain-mule.com and book today.
Welcome to the Kyle and Tim podcast. This is John Cochran. We're going to discuss a whole bunch of shit with absolutely no guidelines or parameters. And now I'm going to go fishing.
Enjoy, folks. There's a lot of good stuff in here.
Perfect.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
And where are you from?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
So the Cochran name that I was telling you about, our veterinarian on our farm, his name's Dr. Dave Hammond. He's passed, but his farm was Cochran General Dairy, and that I was just asking my mother this morning and some old friends, and that they said that farm, it was like the 1790s. They gave it to this General Cochran, this farm, who's some sort of surgeon. And I didn't know if that Cochran name was at all tied to your Cochran name.
My dad is from North Carolina.
Okay.
And I don't know, which ship he was on.
Yeah.
When he came over. It's funny because that you say that, because I've always thought my real, one of my true avenues of living would be farming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of the friends said they're going to get me some more information because they know someone who worked there. So I'm curious.
Let's hook it up.
What part of Pittsburgh? You were Pittsburgh. Where in Pittsburgh?
I grew up in North Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah.
How far from the city?
40 minutes.
Okay.
Now 15 because they built a new interstate.
Okay.
I grew up in the sticks, swinging on vines in the woods and
Tarzan?
Yeah, and chasing pheasants and flying my glider into pricker patches and, grew up in the woods, creeks.
Cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I feel like we reoccurringly have had people on from Pittsburgh, or I just keep meeting people from Pittsburgh. But our friend of mine, Evan, he's from Pittsburgh. And was that where Ty's mom was from? I know it's where Bob's from.
I forget where Ty's mom was from.
I swear it was Pittsburgh, but
yeah, Bob's from Pittsburgh.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We call it Pennsyltucky.
Pennsyltucky.
Yeah. When you're from the sticks, that's...
Yeah.
Pennsylvania is kind of an interesting state. It's really, you meet a lot of people in the West because it's very outdoorsy. It's very hunt, fish oriented. Mm-hmm. And you meet a lot of people that come here that are from Pittsburgh or from Pennsylvania, Michigan.
Yeah.
Right. Texas, any hunty, fishy state pulls them in.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a lot of the Northeast, I've noticed that too.
Yeah.
Yep. Pennsylvania is beautiful though. It's like the farm country and the Amish country. I think of it as a farm state. I guess Pittsburgh's the
Central
city there.
Pennsylvania. Yeah. You could do away with the two edges, especially the one that touches the east side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is Harrisburg, is that central or that's more east? Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to go to Harrisburg when I was younger, working for a guy at cow shows. There's a big Harrisburg cow show every year there.
Well, I went to Penn State University, so
okay.
I was in central PA, and that was another factor because it had good fishing. That's how I chose it. Central PA is world renowned for good fishing.
I've never even been to Pennsylvania.
Have you met Kevin, my mother's boyfriend?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a big Penn State. Well, he just had his daughter went to Penn State, so he's a big Penn State guy.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Do you have siblings growing up there or no?
Yeah, I have a younger brother who lives in Arizona and a sister who still lives in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah.
You get back there much or no?
No, I avoid it at all costs.
Wow.
Yeah, the gray overcast skies and the general gloomy nature of the entire place, just as a
Of like the city.
people.
Okay.
Not all of them.
What do you think it like contributes to that? Where's that come from?
I have no idea. But you can tell the difference because when you drive around right here, like I think Montana is the epitome of, at least it was, and maybe it's changing now, but you get to a stop sign right at the same time as other people and they're like, no, you go. And you're like, no, you go. It's fine. You're like, hey, in Pennsylvania, you'd be like, the guy would get out of his car and fucking beat your windshield in with a bat, like, what are you doing? Like angry style. I don't know. It's just, the East Coast.
Yeah.
Kind of like people walk looking straight forward. They never say hello. It's like, you feel like Crocodile Dundee in downtown New York. Like, good eye, like people don't know what the hell to do.
Forgot about that movie.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, that was probably when you were 2.
Basically.
Yeah.
I was like 5 or 6.
I had to be careful of that.
It was sick.
Yeah, but it's the same.
That was a good movie.
Same setup.
Did you ever, you know the movie he's talking about?
No.
You got to watch it, dude.
I probably wasn't born.
It'll change your life.
What was the name of it? Crocodile Dundee?
Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah.
Comes to America or something like that.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's this guy from the Australian outback, and he's fucking
strapped.
He's got these like couple of knives on him, and he's used to wrestling alligators and like pythons and big snakes, and he comes to the U.S. and he's just fucking out of place. It's a great movie.
What was his name? Paul something. Paul.
I don't know.
Paul Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blonde hair.
I feel like it's ringing a bell, but I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I met a girl that she was adopted, but she was raised here. She was here most of her life, and she went to school at Cornell, upstate New York. She's like, I couldn't believe just how gloomy and gray the winters were. And I think I take it for granted how much sunshine we get here in the wintertime.
Last winter was not too sunny.
Yeah.
Yeah. February put a hurting on me. Bad.
Yeah, it was cold too.
Cold, windy, overcast, sad.
Yeah, but it's like it gets, the leaves leave in the fall and it gets gray and it's wet and cold and it's pretty gloomy for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I came here from Colorado, and Colorado probably has 320 days of straight ass blue sky, crushing it sunshine. And that's one of the biggest differences about living in Montana. It is like Eastern Seattle. You do get that sort of cloudy flow that comes across, and not all the time, but I notice it because that's what I've always been running from, was cloud cover. So that's how I ended up in Colorado, and then coming here, it's been sort of like a rewind a little bit.
So what'd you do? What was it like growing up in Pennsylvania besides swinging from vines?
Whew, that's a big question. I enjoyed it. I mean, there's a lot of outdoor activities and things. I didn't have the best home life. My mother was always struggling. Just grew up kind of in a little bit on the struggle bus a little bit, but made my own escape. There's like 3 or 4 ways to escape a shitty childhood, and one of them is being outside. You got alcohol and drugs or whatever. And I was sort of like outside workaholic. Those were my 2 avenues to escape it.
And what are you, your oldest, middle, youngest?
Middle.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make a difference?
I don't know. I guess I'm like a middle. You're Kyle. What are you, youngest? I don't know.
You're youngest?
Yeah. I think there's all kinds of theories on what.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm closest with my sister.
She's younger or older?
She's older.
Okay.
Yeah. She's a year older than me. And my brother's 2 years younger. But he chose alcohol, and he's had a tough go.
Yeah, I don't know how big the town was that you grew up in, but I grew up in a small town, and that's what it was. Like, we had a farm, so it was just work.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. But like, if there wasn't much to do, and if you didn't have a great situation at home, it was like drugs and alcohol, work, or maybe you were into sports.
I did kind of all that. I never got into, I don't drink, and I never got, I mean, yeah, we all dabbled, but I can remember distinctly the moment when I had my 4 buddies in high school and they were getting, tuned up all the time. And I just looked at them and said, hey, this is not for me. I don't want to do it. I don't enjoy it. I'm tired of feeling like the cops are coming and going to arrest me all the time. Smoking weed, you just get like paranoid. And I just basically avoided it. And I tell people I probably haven't bought, this is in my lifetime, maybe 12 cases of beer. Total. And maybe 10 bottles of liquor, of which I'd never finished one ever. And I probably have a bottle of liquor in my house.
And you probably shared with a bunch of other people. I think.
Yeah. Like one time I got, my biggest beer purchase ever was like 15 cases at a time, but they were to be doled out to other people. We bootlegged a bunch of Yuengling from Pennsylvania back across the state. We found a kid in Boulder who was driving, and we paid his gas money, and he loaded up his he had some EV. I can't remember what it was, but it was hilarious when he pulled up and the thing was like
probably squatting,
overweighted, like you couldn't believe. But he had like 15 or 20 cases of Yuengling beer, and then we doled it out all across the West, which is highly illegal.
They sell it out here now, don't they?
I couldn't answer that question, but for the longest time, it was nowhere west of the Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think they only sold it in the Northeast for the longest time. And then they started branching out a little bit. But that's the oldest brewery in the United States is Yuengling. And it's good beer.
I didn't know that.
But I don't drink, and it makes me kind of boring in a way. But I don't know. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you don't drink.
Well, I said to I think it was Thanksgiving, my brother-in-law gave me a glass of wine, and I'm like, I don't know how many times I've sat down and had a glass of wine, but it's in the single digits. Yeah. He didn't believe me, but I don't drink a lot anyway. But I really don't. My brother's a level 2 wine sommelier, and I was like, I couldn't tell you like the ass from the elbow of any glass of wine. Like it's the last.
And I don't like poo-poo it, but when you dig into the culture of alcohol, it is insane what we are taught from such a young age, that this is how you socialize, this is how you party, this is how you have fun, is by pouring alcohol down your throat. And then you go to college and it's reinforced, and then you leave college and then it's bars,
football games,
every single activity,
NASCAR. You gotta be blacked out.
Yeah. And when people are like, you don't drink, what happened? And I say, nothing happened.
And you're like, actually, what happened to you?
Yeah, nothing happened. I said, I didn't quit. I just stopped. Yeah. Cause I don't need it anymore. And I'm trying to, my theory is there's way too many things that are going to get you. So why pour another one down your throat? This doesn't make sense.
So this was like 4 or 5 years ago. Have you heard of 75 hard? So I did it. Sure. I did it. I did it. And I did the 75 days, and I'm like, man, I felt great. And like, the main reason it's fun drinking, but the hangovers I get, for whatever reason, it's like 10x maybe, because I don't do it enough. I don't know.
Same.
So I did the 75 hard. I'm like, that felt awesome. I was like, I'm going to do it again. So I did it again. 150 days, and I'm like, I'm not going to drink anymore. So I didn't drink for, I guess it was almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And every time, like dating, like, why don't you drink? Is something going on? Or anywhere socially, like, what is, everyone kind of looks at you and like,
They
oh,
do.
he was an alcoholic. He had an issue.
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk
He
about
probably
it.
got a DWI.
Yeah.
But being in my business anyway of driving, like that's my that's my main source of income. So it's not something I would want to risk anyway. And
yeah, but you think about how accessible it is, and how it's attached to every single thing. Like literally, there's almost nothing you can do except for church, where alcohol is not involved. I mean, eating out, just everything.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Kyle, you say that all the time. It's so in Hollywood, and every time any TV show you watch or any commercial, there's a problem. Like, go grab a beer, drinking a glass of whiskey. Like it's kind of burned into our brains that this is how we solve our problems and how we deal with things.
I started to notice it. I guess it was last summer. I did 90 days without drinking, and I was just noticing, like, I was like, man, like, you watch a movie and somebody gets in a fight with their wife. What's the next scene?
Yeah. Like
they're at a bar,
yeah,
right? Drinking by themselves, and it's lonely.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because you're like, people mimic that behavior. And you're like, what would make you think that going to a bar and drinking is going to improve your relationship? You know what I mean? Like what would make you think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
But like, what makes you think that is you actually don't, it's not conscious, right? You're like, fuck it. I'm going to the bar. I'm going out with my buddies.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's not going to help the fight that you just got into.
No.
And so that's just like one example, but like, I used to be like a sports fanatic. I would watch sports all the time.
Yeah.
And then it changed after college, because I was just working so much and I didn't have time for it. Like I don't have anything against it. I just don't understand, how do people watch 5 or 6 football games in a week? I don't understand it. Like, what are you doing with yourself? And so it kind of goes back to like drinking, right? Because usually it's like, well, I'm just constantly drinking and watching football.
It's a cultural alignment, right? And they know it. And they spoon feed it to you. They're like, oh, you should, I feel the same way about like pro sports. I think it's like, I do enjoy watching the athleticism and the game, specifically hockey over anything. I don't play hockey, but I'm just perplexed at the reflexes and the like minutia detail that goes into how do you trick somebody who's as good at hockey as you are, right? And then get around them and still put the puck in the net. But yeah, it's like the saying is like pro football is like opium for the masses. It's just like everyone's like, duh, like. And then fantasy football, don't get me started.
Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night.
Yeah, don't get me started on fantasy football, which like when I was running my business was a thing. Like when employees they'd be
in a league together.
Oh my, it was insane. And they're like, oh, I got the draft tonight. I'm like, I don't care. Like, the draft of what? Your fake fantasy football league? Yeah. And I'm like, come on, dude. Seriously, like you got to finish this. I can't, man. I got this thing, my draft going on. One time I had an employee and I was like, he's like, I asked him some specific question. I was like, well, what about, did you finish this thing, this specific task or whatever?
Doesn't remember or whatever.
Yeah. And he would always be like, oh yeah, this was his answer. I'm working on it. It's not done yet, but it's done. But like it'll be finished soon, but if it's going to be done later today, but it's basically done. I'm like, what? I said, who's the number 2 quarterback in the NFL? He's like, wham. Like gave me the stats, like everything was like dialed in. I said, see, you do have the capacity. You just don't care. Yeah. And so, me and fantasy football are enemies.
I got you. I think it makes sense. I haven't done fantasy football in, at least 10 years. And when I started working, I was like the same thing. I'm like, I don't understand how everybody can pay attention to this 7 days a week. Like, I think I can give it 20 minutes like a week.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna set my team up on a Sunday for 20 minutes. And I'm not gonna touch it or look at it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay.
But what if you won last year? Right? I mean, you won last year, right? So that's like makes it like 10 times more important. It's insane.
Yeah, I've never done it.
I won $1,200 last year. Ooh, crushed it. Like, really?
It's so true.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a really interesting point. I wonder if oh wow, we could go down this rabbit hole.
Well, that
how much more money would you make if you actually paid attention to your life instead of paid attention to fantasy football? It could be 50 grand a year. So then fantasy football wouldn't matter to you.
Or not even just work, but just.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Oh, I went for, 18,000 more walks. And I got more exercise and I was outside and I saw a baby bird or what, you know what I mean? Like,
I saw a baby bird.
You're like on the computer, you're like, oh, I'm going to choose this guy. I'm putting him in. Yeah, because he's going up against this guy. Like, the amount of detail is insane. To have a strategy in fantasy football, you have to know all the players, like pretty much, right?
I don't know, man. I don't understand it. I can't even. I mean, I wish I had a little more time to watch some sports.
Yeah.
I think it would probably be good for me. But yeah, I don't understand how people are constantly watching all kinds of sports. Then they'll watch like 3 sports at once and they'll know what's going on. I don't get it. I can barely pay attention to all that
Sorry
stuff.
to bring it up.
No, and it's
Anyway.
well,
But drinking is involved. Yeah, drinking is heavily. That's how we started the conversation.
Yeah.
I remember I did 30 days no drinking when I was like, it was about 10 years ago. And I was living in a part of town. I wasn't living in San Diego, but I was living in a part of town that was like super young part of town. And so like the weekends were like, it was all like football and it was football season.
Yeah.
I remember how hard it was for me to go hang out with my friends, and I would go to the bar and get like a water, right? And I remember that was super hard for me because I felt so out of place.
Do you have a problem with alcohol, or are you just
no
in and out, just whatever?
Yeah, it's interesting. Do I have a problem with alcohol? I think I do. I do think that I like fall into the tendency of like, oh, I'm gonna have a beer.
Yeah.
But then I don't really know like why.
Boredom beer.
Yeah. But I would say that like, I've had a 12-pack at my house for 6 months and it's still there. So like I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I don't normally drink alone. Maybe I'll have like a beer by myself.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But.
But I would say like I do still find an urge to drink like in social settings.
Yeah. But I wonder if that's the social pull or is that the drinking pull?
It's the social pull.
Yeah.
Because I don't drink.
You don't want to be the guys like the zit over here while everyone else is having fun. You're just like sitting out on the circle, right?
Yeah.
When you're younger, that's really, really hard to battle until you realize how cool it is to not drink. Mm-hmm. And you're like, yeah, go ahead and waste all your time and money. I'll be over here crushing it.
Yeah.
And then, there's like a shift that happens where I don't think badly of it. I just don't have time for it. That's
like you sent me that thing yesterday, right? That brewery tour thing.
Yeah, isn't that so funny?
And when I was younger, I would have been like, hell yeah, I'll drop what I'm doing today and go to that, right? That would have been probably 10 years ago. But like I was like, I don't have time for that shit.
A brewery tour, seriously?
I don't have time to go sit around.
What's the point of that?
And go like I am like this. It affects me in a serious way. Where like somebody can have 2 or 3 beers and still be productive for the day. I'm not that way. I have one beer. I'm fucking like whatever I thought I was going to do for the rest of the
It's
day,
over.
I'm done.
Yeah.
It's one
nappy
beer.
Nappy time.
I get tired. I get lazy.
Yeah.
My whole, I guess, like productive mind turns off.
Yeah.
So I know that like if I'm going to have a beer, I better not have anything else to do for that day or evening or whatever it might be.
Isn't it interesting that we know what the result is of the action, but yet we still complete the action? It's like people who would eat a whole bag of cookies, or, I struggle with food myself. I have a terrible
I ate a
relationship.
shitload of Oreos the other day.
You did?
Yeah. They were fucking great.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, you know what I mean? It's like, that the result of that action is not good.
Right.
Right. But we still do it because there's like this crazy, and that's, I think, the same addiction, alcohol, even drugs, or whatever other thing, right? Porn, all these things that have that subconscious pull on your mind where you can literally be like, if you do this, I'm going to put a knife in your hand. And you're like, yeah, it won't hurt that bad.
Right.
Like, it's crazy, the power of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think probably people do have a bigger pull than others,
Oh, yeah,
pull
for
towards
sure.
whatever that might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
They say you just got to mix if you have enough of a negative experience. Like that's what's happened for me with alcohol is like, I'll just think exactly how I'll feel. I think of that feeling in the morning when I look at a beer and I'm like, no, get it away from me.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that brewery tour is, they had the Montana Festival this week. First day I walk in his door, this guy's just standing there. Introduced myself to him. I'm like, oh, what do you do, man? He's like, oh, he's basically said he was like a beer sommelier.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm like one of 28 in the world or something. I'm like, oh, cool. He's like, do you like beer? And I'm like, I was like, I really don't, man. I was like, beer's fine. Like if I'm gonna have a beer, I'd have a lager, but I really don't drink. And he's like, oh, that's okay. And I'm like, yeah. And I was telling Amy later, I was about to say to the guy, like, yeah, no shit, it's okay. Like, thanks for the permission.
Yeah.
Like, he's a very nice guy, but
right.
They had a drawing for these Airbnb experiences, and I put the ticket in that because the other one was horseback riding or petting goats, and we have horses to ride enough.
Horseback riding or petting goats.
I would have gone with petting goats.
That's 100%. What I thought I put it in was the goats.
Yeah.
And Amy said, like, you put it in the same one as me, but I think she put it in the wrong one too. Anyway, I won this and I couldn't give it to anyone, like 5 or 6 people. And I'm like, well, I guess that shows you the circle of friends I have.
Yeah.
None of them.
Yeah. They don't want it.
Yeah. The only reason I wanted to go is because I was thinking of making the brewery tour tied in with my company, just offer people tours. And
yeah,
the last thing I want to do is drive around guys that just went to 5 breweries. They're just drunk off their ass.
I think drinking for me is probably, if I'm kind of diagnosing it like on the spot here, like there are times when I've had a blast drinking with friends and family, right? And so I remember those things. And it's almost like, in a sense, kind of like living in the past, right? You feel like we're going to go out and drinking and I'm going to have a blast.
Yeah.
And I think as you get older, like that doesn't really happen, right? Like I have so many fun memories of kind of fun times drinking in college or after college. And then people just try to keep repeating that, but it doesn't actually repeat itself, right? Like life changes, things change. And then you're like, actually, I went out drinking and I didn't really have any fun. And now I have a fucking hangover.
That's where you end up.
You know what I mean? And so I think people are like trying to relive their youth with drinking. I don't know. I'm kind of diagnosing that on the spot.
Yeah.
But like,
it's interesting, the social pull versus the alcohol pull, right? The taste, the whatever, right? But it's like really, I think it's probably weighted 75 social for most people, 25. I love to guzzle alcohol. I don't know, but it seems like what you just said was your memory is of the fond times, not of I got really drunk and it was awesome. You didn't say that. You said, I had a fun time with my friends and family.
Right.
So the social side of it
Yep.
is really and staying tied to that, right? So why do we not put more energy into staying tied to the social rather than crushing fantasy football parties and draft parties? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, and I completely agree. And I also think that, like, if you give it a chance, the not drinking thing around more or less those same people, and those people also give it a chance, you can have so much fun doing all these other things. If you think about when you were a kid, right? Like swinging through the trees, riding bikes,
Nerf football.
like what exactly, right? There was never drinking involved, right? Like, you know, I didn't drink at all until I was like, 18 or 19 years old. This is like the first time I had like some beers. I had so much fun from 0 to 19.
Yeah. We had 16-ounce warm old Milwaukee's stashed in the tree fort and some Marlboro Reds along the side of that. You know, just for passing time when we were kids. I was probably 12, 13. We never got smashed. We thought we were crushing it when we could finish a whole 16-ounce beer.
Yeah.
You know, like warm.
Yeah.
What? I mean, weird, right? Why did we do that?
I think another part of it's probably just people are anxious too. They get in a social setting.
Yeah.
If they're uncomfortable, then if they have a beer or two so they can relax or just, you know what I mean? I think that's part of why people drink. Like, yeah, I know like people when I was younger, they'd always want to have a drink or two before they'd go out somewhere. Like, oh, I want to we got a pregame. I don't want to I don't want to go in there sober.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, right? Because they don't want to go into the bar like cold. Well, and here's the thing: people who haven't done this should try it, and they should, because it is. I think there's a barrier that people need to get over. Go to bars sober, and you'll find out how uncomfortable it is, because you're like, what the fuck is everybody doing?
Yeah, just pounding.
I can't go. That's really interesting. I have a hard time going to bars now, being like without drinking, because it's like you're like everybody's acting like an idiot.
It's so true.
You know?
Yeah, I haven't been in a bar.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, actually, last time I was in a bar was about 3 years ago in Medicine Lake, Montana, with my buddy John. We were out there pheasant hunting. And
where's Madison Lake?
Medicine Lake.
Oh, Medicine Lake.
Yeah, is almost in North Dakota.
Okay. Extreme
northeast corner of Montana. It takes about 7.5 hours to get there from here. It's crazy. And there was a baseball game on. I think it was playoffs or World Series or I don't know, you know. Everyone was like, "Wah!" in the bar, you know. And I'm just like, I'll just have a cheese pizza and a glass of water. You know, I was getting ready to go walk 14 miles the next day. Last thing I wanted to be was hungover. But people can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are good at it.
Some people don't have the massive hangover.
Yeah, they say some of that's genetic, but I know some people that I know some people that are fun to be around because they're just fun and they always got a beer in their hand, but they're like, and then the next day they're right at it again. In my understanding is that they're a full functioning alcoholic. That's what it seems like.
But they don't suffer the repercussions. Like, sounds like you and I have very similar alcohol metabolism. Like, I always tell people if I had 3 drinks, I'd be smashed. If I had 6, I'd be in the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, and 2, I get hungover. If I start drinking at 9, I'm hungover by midnight. Like, just feeling like crap.
It's like 2 or 3 days for me. I feel like I can feel my whole demeanor drop.
Yeah.
And like a couple days later. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I don't know how many more times I'll do that in my life.
Yeah.
Until I start to realize it.
Yeah. I'm not into it.
But my father passed away when I was pretty young, but like my uncle would always tell me, he's like, yeah, your father, he never liked drinking. He's like, he'd maybe have a drink now and then. He said he'd feel terrible. So I don't know if it's genetic too.
Physiology,
Yeah.
just the way you process alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, alcohol, when you think about it, is not.
It's poison.
It's poison.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? Right? There's entire, $1 billion a year multimedia campaigns to convince you to drink poison. And when you think about it, it is just ridiculous. Like, here, drink some Clorox. You're going to have fun. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I think, when I was at they had Montana Fest here a couple of days, and they were talking about, kids' education and stuff. They were talking about phones in schools. They're saying most of the people that are the people that own these, that are like CEOs at Apple and Google and everywhere else, they put their kids in private schools that don't allow phones.
No phones.
But then I think it's the same in these, like, in the alcohol industry. It's this billion-dollar industry, and it's addicting, just like the football industry and the fantasy football. And they've got the algorithm set up, and everything's so addicting. But they're the same people that are like, no, we know how bad that is for our kids. So, like, don't let our kids have phones till they're 16. Don't let them have. It's weird. People know where the money is, but they also know the health consequences of it. And I think that's just very much in the alcohol and sports and everything. It's made to be addicting. That's why I don't have any social media on my phone.
Really?
And I'm like, I don't, because I know how addicting it is.
Yeah.
Like, everything, the social media for my business and the podcast and everything, I do it all on a desktop. So then I can just shut the thing and I know I'm not on it.
Oh, I find myself like, I watch YouTube a lot I learn stuff on YouTube. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. I'm just like, how do you tick weld? This, that's the kind of stuff that I like, and I look, and not all, I definitely watch entertaining things too, but I definitely, YouTube for me, like, I hardly watch TV at all. Mm-hmm. I'm mostly like, I'll watch the local news just to get a kick out of the weather guy or some of the reporters. Like, they always have new ones on, like some young kid, and and you can just watch them develop their, like, newscast zone. It's just hilarious.
So I've been traveling for work a lot, and I'll stay like 1 or 2 nights in a hotel, and every once in a while I'll kick on the TV and I'll be in a random city, and it's kind of interesting to see, hey, what the fuck's going on in this town, But I was thinking about this week. I'm like, it's so unreal, and it's bizarre. Like, television is so antiquated. Does that make sense? Like, it is.
You mean as a communication medium?
As a communication medium, but also, like, what is on television?
Oh yeah.
Is, to me now, because I don't watch it.
Yeah.
And so like, when I do watch it, I'm like,
slow as fuck.
No, but like, do people really think like this is the real world?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, what's on the news on it? I'm like, this is wild. Like, people, and then like the TV shows, right? Like the actual, like, sitcoms or whatever. I'm like, this is so old, and like, I don't know. It just seems
news. Maybe
old isn't the right word.
I know what you mean. It's like, it's not as, like, visually spicy as what's going on social media.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like, then, like, I don't think that that's really reality either.
No.
I'm it kind of is, and it isn't, depending on how you live your life. But TV, TV in my mind is like an AM FM radio. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I can listen to AM or FM, and those are my choices. That's what TV is.
Yeah.
And, versus like Spotify, right? You're like, okay, on Spotify, I could listen to a podcast. I could listen to really any genre of music all around the world, any specific artist, right? You could
Mhm.
just dive into one artist. You could, I mean, it like, so I guess what I'm saying is like something that's this big versus something that's like
Yeah.
that,
It's more dopamine. It's more like,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I have control over my choices, like
Yeah.
that kind of
I guess
stuff.
just what's available
Yeah.
to you, right?
Oh,
TV is like what's available to you is like that big.
Right.
And every single thing on it is geared to make you think a certain way, whether it's an advertisement or whether it's CNN or Fox
Yeah.
or whether it's a sitcom.
Yeah. And people don't realize it.
Yeah.
They just settle into their lane.
Right.
And then, and I'm, I find it interesting. Like, I want to learn about other people's point of view. Like, I don't think we should get into it hardcore, but conservative versus liberal.
Sure.
Like, I say, convince me. Show me the light.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you that way? Why? Both sides, right?
Yeah.
Like, why is it so much better over here versus over here?
Yeah.
Like, or are you?
Because you're trying to figure out how they think.
I'm trying to understand why there is such a divergence in why there's only
because they're watching TV, dude.
I guess you might be right. You might be right. I don't know. I mean, why is it only, and it's not necessarily two paths of thought, but it's a blended universe with extremes, right? That come from two paths of thought. I think about this a lot because I have a lot of liberal friends and very few like hardcore conservative friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I think regardless of who you voted for, whatever, if they had somebody who would represent as a rule, whether the liberals are in power or the conservatives, if they had somebody in the cabinet that could represent the other half of the country as a point of view in the cabinet, regardless of which side it was on, versus kind of this like all or none, burn it down mentality, right? Where it's like, we won, you suck.
Well, so
burn it down.
So I've been thinking about this too, and I think it is changing, and I think you can tell from the last couple of elections.
Yeah.
Is that like where are people spending their time, and where are they getting their influence, right? And so, I think if you think about, people that are, I guess Tim's age and older, right? So like mine and Tim's age and older. So let's say mid-30s and older.
Yeah.
We grew up with television, right? We grew up with like radio stations, right? And Spotify and YouTube are they're not necessarily new, but they're newer, right? But everybody who's basically 35 and older has been generally influenced by these older, I guess, past forms of communication and media. And so I was thinking about this, like, what, we watch these like stupid TV shows, these reality TV shows that are very like dramatized, and like this person's fighting with this person, and it's that's like that's what we watch, and that's what's entertaining, and people are almost like they're expecting it,
the fight, right? They want the fight,
right? And so like we're actually like, of course the country is exactly the way it is right now. This is what we want. Clearly, it's clearly what the country is. People are interested in.
It's so unproductive.
I agree, but what I'm getting at is like we are a reality television show. The United States is a reality television show.
I agree,
and it's interesting. There's a really I never got into it. Didn't really know anything about it, but I was bored the other day, and so I watched this documentary on Vince McMahon, who is the CEO of WWF or WWE, what have you. And you watch this thing, and you're like, "Yeah, this is the United States of America right here. WWF is the U.S.
And I think his wife is now in charge of the Department of Education.
She's involved somehow.
Linda
Yeah.
McMahon.
Yeah.
She's the head of it.
Yeah. But so what I'm getting at is like people say they don't want this contradiction and they don't want this fight, but they actually do, right? Because they keep, it's like they keep going back to like this sickness, right?
Yeah.
It's like they keep going back to this negativity. And so they're like addicted to.
It's like those relationships that you like fight, make up, fight, make up, fight, make up.
Yeah. And I think that's
the same.
That's the United States right now.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I do think it's changing.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take 20 or 30 years for people to kind of shed some of the older, I say older, just the past forms of communication and media. I think people are probably getting exposed to other things. Because like your point on YouTube, you get to choose what you watch, right? You could look at a video on how to weld, right? Because that was your choice. On TV, you don't get a choice. You don't get to choose to watch something like a specific. You can change the channel, but it is a program.
Yeah. You're fed. You're fed. Yeah.
And so same thing with the radio, right? Like you get to choose the station, but you don't get to choose what you listen to.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so I think there's a choice on the internet.
Why do you think
versus there's not a choice on the older forms of media?
Why do you think it is only two paths of thought?
I think because people's brains, people want simplicity. They say, well, it's either this or it's that. And we all know that like that's not reality, right? In life, there are multiple things. There's a spectrum. There's multiple things in the middle, and it's always blended, right? Like, what are the good characteristics about you?
Yeah.
What are the bad characteristics about you? Guess what? You're a blend of both of them.
Yeah.
You're not either or.
No, not at all.
You know, you're like, hey, I'm this, spaghetti of all this stuff.
So then so the structure of the two parties then is by default, that is the reason, because you're in two camps. There's not a third camp or a fourth camp or the alternate camp.
There's not a middle camp.
Middle camp. Yeah. We need camp. We need spaghetti, team spaghetti.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something.
Team purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something kind of funny with you're saying you have a choice with what you listen to on YouTube, but like they figure out what your pattern is, and then that algorithm will feed you more of that.
Yeah.
So because I was saying I have my Facebook page. I have 2 followers or follow 2 people on it. The only reason I have it is for Marketplace, and I now have it. You can connect it to your Instagram, so you can schedule all the posts on Facebook, and they'll go to on Instagram. And I just do it for the business. But I notice on the Facebook feed, because it has no association, because I don't have, usually they'll find a bias in your friend group or what you search. So you'd see the ads and everything are totally different. And then I've noticed it on YouTube too, because I actually have four different YouTube accounts on my computer, because I have 2 business emails, my personal email, and then our email for this podcast. I can almost tell which one I'm logged into.
They're way different.
Yeah, just totally different feed. And I'm like, oh, you could tell which one I use the most. Like there's some jujitsu videos, some baseball videos, and then, whatever else I'm looking up.
Yeah.
And it's like totally, you think like, oh, doesn't everyone else see this in the world? But like
they don't.
Somebody else gets something totally different.
Yeah.
And it sort of picks up on what you want and gives you more of it.
I do Facebook Marketplace for entertainment as well. That's like an old person thing to do.
You do Craigslist for entertainment too. Craigslist just is a dying thing, but
I've gotten away from Craigslist because it goes into the creep zone, where it's kind of like guys like, yeah, I'm selling my rusty lawnmower, but don't come over. Don't get it. It's like weird zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My girlfriend has said to me, and you don't think about this as a guy, but she won't go look at something on Marketplace unless somebody's with her.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's weirdos.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure they're baiting.
Yeah.
People are out there baiting, like, oh, baby goat for sale. Back to the goat thing, which I would have chosen 100%.
Come pet my baby goat.
Come pet my baby goat. Yeah. Don't go to the brewery. come out here to my farm. It's only 90 miles away from anybody.
John, do you
Yeah.
read books much or no?
I don't. I listen to
Yeah.
Audible.
I could just, I should. We went to this Montana festival they had the last couple of days, and this guy wrote this. There's two guys that wrote this book called Abundance, and he came and spoke the first day. He was. I was looking him up more. He was just on Lex Friedman's podcast recently. I really couldn't tell. I'm like, is this guy is this guy like really left or right leaning? And I couldn't tell the entire time.
Yeah, that's
I'm
good.
like, I can't. Like he'd said one thing, I'm like, oh, this guy's like hardcore lefty, and then I'm like, oh no, he just dogged them pretty bad.
Yeah,
but it was pretty interesting what he had to say. I'll send you a podcast or something.
Yeah. I'm into the Comfort Crisis right now.
Mm.
You know
Okay,
that book.
I've heard of it.
Yeah,
who wrote that?
I don't know.
I've heard
it from a friend. I put it.
Oh, I just got it too, and I'm not reading it, but I got it at the Warriors and Quiet Waters.
Foster told us about it.
Yeah, they had a lunch. It was actually right next to Foster's house, which is funny. Their ranch is right next to his house, but they had a lunch that Bob invited me to, and they had a bunch of books. And they're like, yeah, take one if you want one. And Bob recommended that Comfort Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. I'll try to pull it up without too much delay.
We got sidetracked though. Still, I want to still hear about the rest of your life.
Yeah,
golly.
We went into drinking, and then we went.
I know. So we're talking about where I grew up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, what you do?
What did I do?
Hunting was your main thing? Were you playing sports or anything?
I did. I played football, and it's my wife calling me, but
we'll cut that out.
Yeah, I played football. I played intramural football, and specifically in my mind, the detail that I remember of that is I played both ways, offense, defense, and special teams on the 136-pound team, because I probably weighed 141 the entire time. And I had to run 2 or 3 miles before every game. We chewed Bub's Daddy bubble gum to spit to lose water weight, like wrestler style, and then get weighed in. And I had special foam pads, like thigh pads that had no metal in them. Special, like always about losing weight is incredible, but it's like haunted me my whole life.
Did they weigh in for every game?
They weigh in for every game.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So if you're on the 136-pound team, you couldn't, if you're a 140, you couldn't play because you could crush, if some kid, 8th grader, 180 pounds came in. Anyway, so I played football up into probably junior high to probably played maybe in 11th grade. And I also was on the swim team. I did swim team.
What were your events?
Freestyle, like 100 free, and then medley. I was the freestyle person in swimming.
Cool.
I remember specifically just getting chlorinated to death. It's the smell of it, the smell of the locker room. Those are the things that I remember, and sweating in the pool, which was crazy.
I've never done that.
Yeah, where you're like working so hard and you're sweating, and then you're wet, but you get out and then you're like wet, you dry off wet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So did that, graduated high school. So I'm an early baby, so I graduated when I was 17. I was born in October. Then I went to Edinburgh State College in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania for, I think, 1 year, maybe a semester. I can't remember. Transferred to Penn State University because the fishing was better. Although there was pretty good fishing in Erie. That's near where Edinburgh was. Went there, got a degree, hotel and restaurant management, which was just absolutely there was no purpose to that. Almost none, right? Other than learning discipline, and things like that. But, I worked all through college. I took 15 credits, had a full-time job. I was just busy, right? That was the whole workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
That was my escape. I had fun, in school. And then I graduated and moved to Vail, Colorado immediately. Went there with my girlfriend at the time. Just like, I learned a word that year called abstentia, graduation abstentia, which means absent. I was not there. I got my diploma in the mail. I just hauled ass straight out of school, right to Vail, Colorado, landed in Vail. 2 days later, I had a job as a fishing guide. And that kind of controlled the trajectory of my life from that point forward. And started my own business there and set up shop. Met my wife in a fly shop. She came in and I was like, you know, she was such a different person and so nice and so balanced. I was so out of control and unbalanced that it was almost like this
At the time?
Yeah, crazy. Like, I mean, I was having fun. I was living my life, but my emotional maturity, all that stuff, because I grew up in such a jacked up, childhood, that I didn't really have adult guidance. I always say I grew up feral, basically, and had to figure it out on my own, and took the good from the people that I met and left the bad behind. But when I met her, it was such a weird, like, magnetic attraction that it wasn't necessarily heavily sexual, right? I was attracted to her, but in a much different way, because she was so balanced. And I was like, and I kept saying, I wonder when you've met her, right? I mean, yeah. I was like, when's the crazy going to show up? Still hasn't to this day. She's so solid.
Isn't that funny?
She's coming.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, I'll try to get her in here. Yeah.
No, I meant the crazy's still coming.
Oh no, it's not. I mean, she's 57.
How old were you when you guys met?
I was 24. We met. We corresponded for 6 months, and basically, she was doing a master's degree at NYU. I was in Vail fish guiding and getting ready to start my business. And we met and we corresponded for like 6 months. And then one day I was just like, I think we should get married. Like, I have no idea where that came from. Or we were talking about it the other day. We asked her mom. They were on the phone. Her parents are in their 80s, but they're still super functional and, sharp people. And I asked her, I was like, what were you guys thinking? Like, I'd never met them. And I had to fly into New York City to meet them, which I swore I would never do. And I did it, and spend the weekend getting to know them. And
so she's from New York, and her parents?
She's from Atlanta, but they were all, she was at NYU getting her master's in museum studies and archaeology. Crazy. But, yeah, so like 6 months later, we were engaged to be married. We've been married for 30 years. It's wild.
That is cool.
Yeah. So
where did you were guiding, and then what'd you do? You opened up your own shop?
My buddy and I, it's funny how cyclical this conversation is, but the guy I was working for, his name was Glenn Loki. He ran a company called Vail Fishing Guides, and he was a complete Coors Light blackout, drunk with type 1 diabetes, did not take care of himself at all, and used to call us at 3 or 4 in the morning, whenever he got up, and started getting after it, because the night before he couldn't get it all together and get everything organized. So he'd start calling you at 3 or 4 in the morning to
get ready for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, I'm sleeping. Like, excuse me. He's like, hey, call me. Like screaming on the phone, whatever.
We got to go to work.
Yeah. And then he wouldn't pay us. 2 weeks. I got to get this, that, I got to go, rah, and then hammered. And I often think about, I wonder if that's where I was just like so annoyed with his lack of attention to detail and his inability to function in real life, IRL. And that's literally, I was like, literally the thought process was, if he can do it,
I can do it better.
I can do it way better. And that's exactly what happened. He used to tell me, oh, you're a flash in the pan. You'll never make it. Whatever. I ended up burying him, like figuratively and literally. I buried him in the Colorado River with his wife.
Oh, wow.
Later. Yeah. We sent him packing his ashes, put him in the river, sent him away. But he was an interesting person and had a good heart, but was out of control. So that's how I got started.
Did the guiding ever taint your love for fishing at all?
Well, yes, it did. And I guided for a few, probably 4 or 5 years. And then as the business it grew every year, like in psychotic leaps and bounds. And I felt like I was like riding a branded bull. Like it was crazy to hold on to it and to try to keep the details organized at that level of growth. And people talk about, well, how fast do you want to grow your business? And there's people that want to, like, oh, we're near 300%. Well, there's an unsustainable place that's unhealthy and unproductive, right? It's almost too wide open, right? And we were pretty much on the far end of that, too wide open for a long time. And, but my natural sort of inclination was to go to the details, the organization, at that point it was pre-computers. We didn't have computers to run our business, but sort of ended up in that zone as the person who was running it all, the puppeteer.
You say this as I'm going to a business scaling workshop tomorrow for 2 days.
I'm sure they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, so did you have a brick and mortar shop too, or you just had the guiding visit?
I did. Yep. We started in Vail Village with a partnership with the Gorsuch family, who was an old school mountain town, 2 ex-Olympic skiers that had a very, very high end ski shop. At one point, they had the largest privately held catalog business when catalogs were like the jam, like mail order catalog pre-internet, and they had the largest. It was insane. It was, that thick.
To buy your ski gear,
mountain lifestyle, silver stuff, who knows, everything you could think of from Europe, every kind of weird, like reindeer vest for $1,200 and wacko sweaters that you've never seen in your life that they find in some crazy Italian mountain
I guess
town.
I just forgot about that, right? Like
catalogs.
Yeah, they're gone.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but they used to be a thing. Like that's how you would order unique to you things.
Outside of your living zone. Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about those.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Intense. Yeah.
Some people are still watching TV and ordering shit on catalogs. Dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It was literally like one URL in a book came to your house and you were like, wow, this is like, look, I can buy a bird feeder. I can buy some ramps for my truck. Like you're going through the thing. So we started a partnership with them, and Dave Gorsuch was a very salt of the earth type individual. And I had a handshake deal with him for, I don't even know, 10 years. Like he just said, I guess profanity is okay, right?
Yeah.
He said to me, boys, welcome to the family. Don't fuck it up. That's exactly what he said to me. Shook his hand, no contract, no nothing. And literally, we then set up shop in their store in Vail Village to service their ski customers, which they had, to introduce them to fly fishing. And Renee Gorsuch, the wife of David, but they were a team, also Olympic skier from New York, upstate New York, tough as nails, like a person that just unbelievable. She ran that whole thing, turned it into this massive operation. But her sister owned a hotel in Vail, and there was some inroads in there that we could kind of get going, and that's how we got going. And then we eventually moved out of there because in the summer they were like traveling around Europe, gathering their wares and going to shows and all over the world. And they ran a skeleton crew, and we were like growing and beating on the door at like 9:30. They're like, "Oh, we open at 10." I'm like, "My day's over at 1."
Mm-hmm.
So we came to a crossroads, and that's when we finally moved down Valley and then opened our own standalone store.
Did you think because you were partnering with them, is that why you guys grew so fast? Was it just because of the demand, or were you pushing for that growth, or was it just organic and happening too fast?
No, I think it was a combination of both things. That somehow we convinced them to put our operation in a centerfold in their catalog that went to, I don't even know how many people, but everyone that came to Vail. And then from that point forward, there was a couple of things. One was that, the other one was cable advertising, like almost like geo-located cable, the way they used to do it. They'd be like, okay, you can pick your channel and your time of day. So that was almost like an algorithm.
Yeah.
And no one was doing that. So we had the catalog, then we had that, and we filmed a commercial that was on Comcast, some 20-second spot or whatever. And that thing changed everything because no one was doing that. And we had this very like Land Rover-y kind of, feel the moment, misty morning, black lab, walk down the road with your fly rod, like super visual and like luring people into the sport. This was I think fly fishing's cool. Fly fishing was like for old dudes.
Yeah.
And then, when the movie came out, A River Runs Through It.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, like 94, I think it was. We started in 94, and then it just started building momentum. We actually built winter fly fishing business in Vail because of the sun that we were talking about earlier, and because of the air temperature can be 32, feels like 42.
Yeah.
Right? It's the kind of the opposite of East Coast. And we like built this whole like
come fish in the winter
dual sport thing. Yeah, come fish in the winter. And as climate change has come into the mix, it's almost like the season is now really morphed into more winter, like a lot of winter fishing that people do. And then like August is kind of like a bummer, where I think if it keeps going, the season will be the winter because skiing will be, not as good. I don't know. It's just interesting that as that place grew, we used to get 1-2 people a winter, and it was a pain in the butt, and we had to scramble and figure it out. And then to the point where we were running probably 5 guides in the winter that they weren't like killing it, but they had enough work where they were stoked. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was at the Montana Fest, that's why I was asking about River Runs Through It, because there's 4 different guys that are filmmakers, and they just kind of talked about what they did and what they're doing out here. But it came up with the Yellowstone show, how it will give the entire world a perception of a place. So it's kind of painting this, pretty false narrative in a lot of ways of the way things are and the way things go out on ranches. And they brought that up, that when A River Runs Through It came out, that in a similar way to the Yellowstone show, what that did to fly fishing and Montana.
Yeah, it did. It was, and that fueled it. The catalog fueled it. And I specifically remember when we opened our store in the little town of Edwards, which is like it'd be like sort of Belgrade to to Bozeman or, Manhattan almost, like down valley, where there was like one restaurant, a railroad track, no traffic light kind of situation. But it was what we could afford. And there was a new development there. And I had a realtor friend. She's like, oh, you guys got to go here. You got to get in here.
Because it'll grow.
Well, she had the vision. I was like, okay. Like I didn't know anything. Everyone's like, oh, you're so smart. I'm like, I didn't know anything. I had
what I could afford.
Smart people around me. And when we moved down there, I specifically have a memory of like me selling Ross reels, which was, still is a big name, but it was a bigger name back then. Selling reels out of the reel case, where I had like a line of like 7 people deep to buy a fly reel. I was like, this is insane. This is so good. But it was just lucky, timing, and effort, perseverance. That's kind of what
I know we like glossed over a little bit, but I was asking you if you got sick of guiding. I think about that all the time in my industry, because we take people to these, whether they're going to a dude ranch, they're going to go horseback riding, they're going to go fishing, they're going to go skiing, and then they go with guides all day. And I'm like, man, I actually like my position in the chain, because I just get them to and from, but I don't have to, take them all day. And I just wondered, would it make me resent the things I enjoy doing outside of work
It's tough, man. Think about it. I'm always jealous of raft guides, right? Because all they got to do is show up and float down the river and talk about eagles and Indian sites and like dinosaur prints. And you have to do that. And the only way you're successful is if
they catch fish,
right? It's not success if they learn something. It's only successful if they crank one in. And now with the pressure of social media, again, coming back, it's like the only thing. I took 2 guys 2 summers ago, and one guy was from New York City, the other guy was from LA.
They got to get a photo, man.
He's like, can you bring a couple pairs of waders? Because we were float fishing, it was hot. You just wear pants and sandals. He's like, can you bring me a couple pairs of waders? And then we can, if we catch a fish, we'll pull over, put the waders on, move the boat, take the picture, and then take the weight. I was like, no,
I'm not. What the fuck?
They wanted the river runs through it.
He wanted to stage it.
Yeah, he wanted to stage it. It's insane. So to your point, I think when you first start for guides, when they first start getting beat down by people, it does take the fun out of it. But when you realize that your job is to introduce, right? To educate, to give them access to the sport, that catching a fish is important, but it's not, to me, it's not the end all be all, because I can't control, as I tell them, like, if I paired you up with Tiger Woods, are you going to beat him? No, you're not. Like, it's, to me, like, I can't control how good you are. You have to do the work.
Yeah, and if you come out a couple times a year, you suck.
The classic is this. I've been fishing for 20 years. And I say, yeah, once a year for 20 years, you've been 20 times.
And you suck.
You suck. You absolutely suck. I can deal with that now.
Like, you're not going to play in the NBA because you shoot a basketball every once in a while.
Yeah. I play basketball every weekend. So what? I mean, and the word fishing in general, right? If I say fishing to you, what does that conjure up in your brain? Go. What is fish?
Fly fishing. But
fly fishing?
Yeah.
What about you?
Like spinner rod fishing with my dad.
On a dock in a pond, or
in like stream fishing in the Sierra Nevada mountains.
Yeah. Yeah. So everyone has this different sort of like locked in neural pathway to fishing, right? Fishing is put it in the water, take them out, right? Now we're dealing with fish that, it's a sunny day, it's windy, there's no hatches, there was a flood 2 years ago. There's this, there's that, there's 18 million people. There's a splashy boat just went by. I mean, the factors are unbelievable to success. It's almost impossible, really, when you get down to it. So I just try to, I really started guiding again because this is the God's honest truth, is that I wanted to learn how to deal with people that I don't like. And because when you own your own business, you can become isolated, right? Because you can say, oh, I'm not doing that. Or
you just tell somebody else to do it.
Yeah, tell someone else to do it. If there's a rep, you're like, oh, screw that guy. He screwed me over. I can just shut him down. And when you're guiding, right, you're like in the soup can with soup. And that's literally why I started doing it again. Plus, I like fishing and I like being outside, but I wanted to try to grow my ability to be able to talk to other people and tolerate the indifferences.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, but that's why I did it.
Plus, you're guiding again now.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to leave in about half an hour.
So what was the desire to do that?
Well, after I sold my business and, I'm like 50, semi-retired, bored, right? And then you hear about people say, well, your world starts shrinking, right?
Mm.
And I have the ability to do anything I want, but almost everybody that I know that's my age is still working.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't go to church. Sorry, churchy people. I don't drink and I don't eat out. So now what?
Yeah. So your world is small.
Yeah. My world got tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to be, it's the thing that I love to do.
I get it. You wanted to talk about fantasy football again.
Exactly. That's the first question I ask them. Yeah. You guys fantasy football? And then boom, learn. It's not even in the book.
Who's your quarterback this week?
Yeah. Right.
And who's your running back?
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Well, I put so-and-so in because last week so-and-so did this. And then if I just get 1 point up, then I can win. At fantasy football. But
so your world got small.
Yeah. I mean, smallish, I enjoy spending my time with my wife, and we spent the first few years we were here, just exploring the whole state. That was super cool. This state is unbelievable. There's so much to see, so much to do. And it's like, I drive by mountain ranges all the time, and I'm like, I look at that and I'll drive 10 miles along a mountain range and I'll say, it's a whole person's lifetime just exploring and learning that side of the mountain range, just one. And there's gazillions of them, all over.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And it's been good for me, mentally, physically still, to be able to row a boat all day is a thing. And then I just like to crush giant trouts. It's I like it. I don't know. I've always liked it.
After when we get done recording, because we don't want to share any, any good spots on the air, but you were, it was years ago because Kyle was looking for a raft or a boat. And I know I talked to you about yours because you were saying a spot to go, like somewhere to go float. And I don't know where it was, but if we remember later, just tell us. But you were just saying it was a really cool spot to go. And I don't know I thought it was.
If I could remember, I wouldn't tell you at this point. As the code of Montana continues, the people do not. That's one of the things I like and hate about Montana is people hold it close to the chest.
Yeah. Good for them.
Yeah. And then if you show up and then there's the dude who didn't tell you, you'd be like, sup? Just like, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I got you figured out.
Yeah.
Like that's the jam when you show up on the.
Well, you got to earn it.
Yeah.
You got to try.
Yeah.
You got to try, you got to keep going to places.
It's literally, you got to try. Yeah. You got to try it on your own. And then not to say I haven't gotten some nuggets here and there.
Yeah. And that's interesting, right? Because before social media, you would explore somewhere, right? And, you just end up there, right? Because you're like, well, we went up this creek and we went over here, and then maybe you didn't go back to that same spot, maybe, for years or whatever. And then you have to remember how you got there. And you're not really sure.
Yeah.
Right. Now with social media, somebody put a pin, they took a picture.
Strava.
And where, 15, 20 years ago, you had to find it again.
You had to earn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that in Montana.
Yeah.
Unspoken stuff that you can't see from the road, or, there's the obvious stuff, but there's a lot of unspoken stuff, a lot of things that people are unaware of, because it is impossible to consume Montana in a lifetime or even 5 lifetimes. And that's no matter what the social media, no matter, and now people have gotten smart to kind of like not geolocate, not, like blur the background or only take a picture of the fish in the water. Like in my boat, I'm like, people catch a fish. I'm like, it's not picture worthy. I don't take pictures of
what you should do is you should tell people no phones.
Yeah.
You want to fish with me? You don't bring your phone.
I do a fishing school.
No cameras.
This thing called Trout Snipers. And one of the rules is no cell phones. And it's one-on-one.
Yeah, cool.
It's
Trout Snipers.
Yeah, Trout
Good
Sniper.
Name.
Yeah, like the whole jam of the Trout Sniper mantra is that you show up because you've been to the Orvis school, you've been to the 5-day school, you've had fishing guides, you've done all this stuff, right? But you still haven't learned because you're in the mindset of fish equals success. Don't show me how, show me the prize. Right. And my saying is concentrate on the process, not the prize. The prize will show up. So teaching people actually going through the very slow, methodic, pace of learning, real learning, not we're going to tie knots in the morning and then in the afternoon, we're going to learn how to fly cast. That's like the whole structure of most fishing schools. And so what I do is somebody says, well, I'm going to be in town on business. And I go, okay, great. Give me your hours. And then I plug it into AI and I say, hey, AI, based on these parameters, create a schedule for me that will accommodate. I want to learn how to fish dry flies. I have Tuesday from 2 to 8 p.m. I have this, I have this, I have this. Create the schedule with the subject matter, and then we just find the place. So it's a very, very specifically tuned thing. And I do it one-on-one, and I've lost business because the guy's like, oh, I want to bring my daughter. I'm like, the rules are no phones, one-on-one. That's it. Period. If you don't like it, it's okay. You're not going to learn because you're distracted. Oh, she fell down. Oh, I forgot my, Daddy, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Like, it's how you not learn.
Right.
Yeah. And I say, invest the time in yourself, then teach her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said that's called Trout Snipers? That's
Trout Snipers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have I had too much coffee?
Do you have a website?
I do. Troutsnipers.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
I should cut a piece of this out and put it on my Mountain Mule podcast so people can hear about it.
You guys have the nicest coasters I've ever seen.
Kyle, where'd you get these? He ordered them because it was back before we had like anything for mics or anything, but we didn't have anything adjusted. Right? You put that down and that's all you'd hear. But we realized when you get the mic at the right spot and have everything
gated.
Yeah, I just always wondered that because so many people come out here to do because they love to snowboard, or they love to fish, or they love to hunt, and then they make it a career. And I'm like, man, do you?
Yeah, pretty tough to make a living as a fishing guide.
This woman, Kara, she's a biologist and she does tours through the park. I think she's been doing it for like 15 years. But at least when she's talking to me, she sounds genuinely excited to show people the place.
Yeah.
But it's similar in a sense. It's like, hey, you didn't I wanted to see a grizzly bear and we didn't, so you must be a bad guide.
Yeah.
Or I wanted to see a wolf and it's not. She'll put you in the best possible place.
Yeah.
To hopefully see them. Yeah. But she seems like she genuinely enjoys educating the people and showing them.
I deal with it all the time. You know, the kind of the classic customer is that, oh, I've been fishing my whole life. And then they come back with Alaska, Argentina, Seychelles, Bahamas, Mexico, Kamchatka Peninsula, you know, Norway, salmon, Mongolia, Taiman, you know, New Zealand. They riddle off these unbelievable places where honestly, you don't have to be that good to catch fish there because there's no people. The fish are like, hey, come on over. Like, you can catch me, no problem. And those people are generally the hardest people to guide because they have this expectation that's way up here from being to all these beautiful, crazy, remote, you know, throw it in. Oh, you got another giant 28-inch rainbow on a dry fly. Like, you're so good. No, you're not. You go to good places. Yeah. But
well, it's funny when you talked about like, you know, telling people your spots or not. And it's funny because I don't fish. So like we were just, I don't, do you fish much or at all or
Not
no?
really.
Yeah. Yeah. We were just looking for a spot to go float and find a cool spot. But
thank you that you don't fish. I appreciate that.
And it's like, see, I fished growing up, just like, you know, on a pond or a little creek that ran through our farm. But I always enjoyed it, but I like have a million other things going on right now. And I'm like, you know what, if I'm gonna get into that, like fishing, I keep saying, somebody said this to me and I really liked it. Fishing's my retirement plan, which it would be really fun if I'm, you know, but right now I'm young and a little more able. So I'm doing more physical things, but
maybe we should take this we should take Mountain Mule podcast on the river, and I'll teach you two guys how to catch like on the Yellowstone. We'll go when it gets good.
That'd be awesome.
Badass. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
And then we can do something about trout sniper or something for.
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It'll be fun.
People look at me and probably you too.
Not just
like,
you.
Like for
start over because people look at me.
Speak for yourself.
People look at me when I tell them that I don't really fish. It's like drinking. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, where do you want to start?
In this state, it's a religion for sure. No, it would be fun, and not to say that I don't like you guys. That's why I'm inviting you to go fishing because I want to learn how to communicate better with 30-year-olds. No, no, it'd be fun to do, and part of what
if I don't catch a fish, I'm going to be pissed.
That's cool. I don't care. Part of what I committed myself to after I sold my business, and I mean, we crushed it. We had the right buyer at the right time. And it was, again, nothing to do with me. It was just the confluence of certain situation where a guy had been shopping my business secretly for 6 months, hiring guides, buying stuff online.
Undercover stuff.
Undercover. And he like showed up in my store one day and said, I'd like to buy your business. I was like, and I had been through that a couple times before that. One guy who, crazy stuff, but one guy who makes manhole covers for like cities and just one dude. And he's like a freaking billionaire, the guy. And he flopped out. But this guy came in who, this guy's name is Donnie Beaver, and he invented
what a great name.
Yeah. He invented the like industrial absorber, the snake thing that you see like when they're doing construction to absorb any kind of runoff.
Yeah, they got like, it's called a straw wattle.
Straw wattle. Yeah, he invented that. And he has this whole business.
Fucking billionaire.
I think at one point he told me his cut was like $400,000 a month that he made off of, because they use it in offshore oil rigs. They
use it everywhere.
They use it everywhere.
Every construction site.
And he invented that by putting kitty litter and straw into a pantyhose thing, because when he was young, he used to have a cleaning business. And one of the things that he cleaned was a sort of like an industrial machine shop. And they always used oil to build whatever they were building and cut stuff. And he would have to go in every night, spread kitty litter all over the thing, sweep it all up, put it in a trash can. And he eventually invented these little snaky hoses that went around the bottom of all the machines and would just absorb all the oil. Patented it and just and he's the nicest guy. I mean, a lot of people don't like him because he started this private fishing thing back east, actually outside of State College. It's kind of weird how all this stuff mixes together. But I liked him, and I thought he was a nice guy. He was super creative. He's very religious, and people found him to be abrasive, but I didn't. And I worked for him for about a year, and then it became the sky is green. And I'm like, nope, it's blue. And they're like, no, it's green. I'm like, okay. So I became sort of useless after.
So he bought the business from you. You stayed in it for a year.
Yeah.
And then you guys separated.
Yeah. The CEO, he had a CEO that was running everything. This guy named Tom Keir, who was also an interesting dude and still in the outdoor business. I was like, Tom, this is just not, this. And I was complaining. And he said to me on the phone, he goes, well, why don't you quit? And I was like, that's a good idea. I quit right now. And I gave him my 2 weeks notice and that was it. Then I went caribou hunting.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you say they were like the sky is green and you were like, no, it's blue.
Yeah.
Who do you think was delusional?
Well, I had put the process in our business through the Cuisinart and sifter for 20 years. I mean, I was like, nope, let's start over, build this, do it again, make it faster, better, just over and 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 over. And then they come in and they're like, okay, we're in charge. We're not going to do that anymore. I'm like, really? They're like, kind of like, just because
they didn't know the benefits.
They didn't understand it.
Yeah.
It was so much historical data that led up to that thing. But then they come in and they're like, oh, one time I saw a movie about this and this is what we're going to do. I'm like, because when you own a business, that's how you roll, right? You do stuff based on what you want.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
They didn't have the history of why you put all these steps, and they didn't realize the benefit of this step equals this and this equals that. And if you skip this step, then
this is what happens. Yeah. Because I did it. Yeah. And I did that. And that's where it came out the end, it was kind of like I became useless because I was trying to steer them into the process that was productive and they took a different turn. And that's okay. It's a great process to be involved in, to start, create, build, crush, grow, sell, and become obsolete. What an interesting process.
Full circle.
And so, and all businesses are the same. There's no, kind of unique proprietary information in business processes. There's proprietary information or IP in a business environment, but the process of managing people or your process or what you do is the same. And you see it all the time. I mean, all the time with people in different businesses of how they start in one place and they run into these very predictable blocks along the way. Because it's kind of my saying is either you're 0 or 100 in fish guiding. 0 meaning I have no employees. I do it all on my own, which is what I do now. Or you're Montana angler with 40 guides, because in the middle, you're just burning cash, managing the process. There's not enough margin in the process to create enough meaning to basically make it worth the squeeze. So, and because you're adding, now I got 10 people that I got to do health insurance, or, now I need 2 accountants or instead of 1. And you just sort of start stacking on all these auxiliary things that are there to manage the people in the process, but the process isn't producing more margin or more profit. It's just washing money.
That's interesting. So you're saying you should just jump to.
I'm not saying you should jump, because you have to go through the process, but understanding where you are.
You're in, so somebody might be in the middle and they still need to go through the process to get to that 40 head count.
That's right.
But the 40 head count financially is the sweet spot.
That's right.
And the most efficient.
Right.
But you can't jump.
But having somebody who knows where you are in the process can save you an ass pile of money.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times you think you made it. You're like, oh, I got
20 guys.
10 guides and I'm crushing it, right? But when you get down to it and you really just dig into the math, and you're like, oh, I got a 3.5% credit card fee, and I got this workman's comp, and I got that, and I'm carrying this extra capital, it's costing me 6% to carry my inventory, like boom, 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 boom. The deteriorating effect of all of that generally comes out negative, because most businesses don't have enough margin to have that much error or that much slack, right? If they did, then people would figure that out and be crushing it, right? I mean, that's why restaurants fail.
Yeah.
Right? Because the margins are slim.
Yeah, like a couple percent.
Yeah.
That's so funny. This is like you're speaking to like my exact world right now.
Really?
Because I'm just seeing like the size of my company, and that's why I'm going to a business scaling workshop, because you get to this point where your fixed costs don't change, so you can add this many more units or not, but like you already have this upfront cost. So when you're in the middle spot, you're like, well, it wouldn't cost me that much more to add this many more guys. Actually, a lot of this would stay the same, and my margins would go up. But right now, my margins are
right. But then you look at, okay, now I got to carry another truck. I got to do this. So there's a lot to it, and I guess the lesson from it is it's not linear. It's a roller coaster, right? It goes up and down, and then up and then down, and then up and then down, and you just hope you can survive till you get to the sweet spot, which is, and then it's never the same. It's never, the 2 years are never the same. In my entire fishing guiding, and we were dealing with, we stock market, weather, travel advisories, planes crashing, whatever it was, right? There's always
supply chain issues.
Yeah, always stuff, right? So you never had the same environment twice, which makes you, by the time you get to the end of 15 years, you're savvy son bitch, because now you looked at all those factors, right? Where your competitor is seeing you here and they're like, oh, they're crushing it. We should do that. Like they're not looking at the path. They're looking at the prize. Right. And so they come in hard, don't have, I've seen it 1,000 times. They're out there like spreading their beautiful glossy magazine. They're this thing that they paid $18 gazillion for. And pretty soon, one day, they're gone because they ran out of money trying to chase you down, but you're too smart. You know, oh, I shouldn't do that. They jumped in the middle and thought they could catch you. Can't.
It's literally this winter, I was so busy and I'm like, shit, I don't have enough vehicles. But, I've slowly added vehicles over the year. And now I'm like, I've got quite a few vehicles to pay for right now. And none of them are on the road. And it's like, you're like, I've just been slowly learning this through the years. And I've been doing this 5 years now. And I'm like, you look at that company with 25 cars. And you're like, damn it, they're killing it. All their cars are on the road. I'd be bankrupt if I had 25 cars to pay for right now.
Yeah.
So it's a gradual thing, and there's a million different ways that I'm sure your industry's.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
It's just the ride, and you got to know when to pull back on the reins and when to let it go. And the only way you know that is because you're in the game, and you're going to make mistakes. People are going to make mistakes, but having somebody who, can look at this is what I'd love to do for work, would be to gather 8 or 10 people that have, started, bought, sold, whatever companies. And I'm sure there are groups like this, but I don't know who they are or where they are. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I want to buy Aetna.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about small business, right? Like little stuff, helping people grow small business, and having a community of people. Like if you're like, oh, I'm going to a, business growth seminar.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really need to do that? Like, how much does it cost?
It's $5,000 for 2 days. Yeah.
Whoa. So, I mean, wouldn't it be cool if you had a board, like almost like the board of directors, where you could just come in and be like, okay, guys, this is where I'm at. I got 9 cars. I got this much business. I'm in Big Sky. I'm over here. I'm doing this. I got these ads. I got, like, look at your global landscape of your business,
Mm-hmm.
and then have everyone chime in, and then you get to make the decision. I think it'd be super cool. And it wouldn't be $5,000.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And that's like the reason I'm literally going to Vegas to do this, because it's not here, but like this team does this for, $100 million businesses to $100 million businesses, but their team will sit down with you in a small personalized group and say, hey, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? Let's help you map this out. Yeah. And those resources might be here, but they're kind of few and far in between. And how do you find them? But you made me like this guy, Pat, he runs a group that meets in town. They call it an investor group, but he's a business broker. He buys and sells businesses, but I'm sure like if the two of you sat down together, you guys would be able to like really map this out for people.
Yeah. I think it'd be a fun resource, because I'm interested in business. I would love to invest in some businesses, but finding the access, but maybe through the group, right? Where you come, you pitch, you're like, I want to grow, I want to buy, rather than standard banking. I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with standard banking loans. It's complete bullshit. Like, the banks only give loans to people who shouldn't have loans. They never give people to loans that can support it. And you know what I mean? They're like, make you jump through 8,000 hoops. You got to have, I've got $7 million in assets with no liabilities. I want to borrow $40,000. Like, come on. Like, standard banks are just total bullshit.
Yeah, they do make you jump through a lot of hoops that in some ways doesn't make sense. I don't know a lot about it, but the small exposure that I've had, there seems to be some things that don't make sense about that process.
Yeah, it's not fun.
When they bought your company, did they hire you on as an advisor, or you took a role?
Well, it was interesting because I was originally supposed to be like in new business development, and there was a whole plan where we were going to go out. The plan was for them to buy the fishing business and the guide service and the retail operations, and then create this sort of like East Coast, West Coast thing, right? They had a fishing club on the East Coast. People would come out, use our resources. People from the West would go east. They had steelhead fishing in Lake Erie. They had all these things. And then out West, the plan was to form a club, raise capital, use that capital to then buy properties that had water on them, fishing water. And then that was sort of the jam, right? We would start with 10 members. I don't remember what the numbers were, but say the numbers were $250,000 each, something like that. So we'd raise $2.5 million. We'd buy one property that had a mile of river, and we had all the math figured out, right? Like that could support 2 anglers a day with days off, rest. And we just, did all the spreadsheet math on it. And then we would, your membership would be worth, when you got in early, you paid $250. Now here comes the next guy, next 10, $270. right? So now we're going to raise 2.7 million. We're going to buy another property, break it up. And so we keep building the portfolio of basically you're buying great fishing properties, which holds value.
Yep.
And then land holds
and you're
value.
using those properties to like sell trips, and they go
fish there. Yeah.
Right.
If you're
they
part
stay
of the
there.
club,
They go fish there. Yeah.
If you're part of the club. Right.
Right.
That was the plan. And so my job was to go out, find these places and talk to the people. And I went through this whole process with one person this was early on in the game. And it's a great place on the White River. The guy was principal of the high school, his family's ranch. He was ready to sell. He had a great place, went through this whole thing, right? I'm down there like having dinner with him, branding calves. Like I'm in the mix with this guy, got to know him. He was a great guy. And I'm creating the whole P&L, this, that, the whole thing. Like, how is this going to work? They want to lease back the grazing. They're going to do this. We create this much cash flow. They have a house. We're going to turn it into this. Crazy, right? All this stuff, which was fun. And I got to to the finish line and I was like, okay, they agreed to the price. They agreed to the process. Let's do this.
Let's write them a check.
Yeah. And I got, let's ask them if they want to be our partner, which is code language for I don't have access to that capital anymore. I was like, time out. I just put my neck on the line for this guy who's like salt of the earth, right? You screw this up and you're done. Like, this is not going to work. Based on the fact that they told me that's what they wanted to do. So I had to call them up and say, hey, they're out. They can't do it. And the guy was like, what? And I literally wrote him a letter of apology. And then right after that is when I resigned. I was like, this is not the way I do stuff. So, and they eventually failed.
They wanted him to basically owner finance it.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he was like, no, I don't. I'm not.
He wants his money.
Yeah.
He's going to go to he's going to move to Arizona with his mom or whatever, he's out of there. Yeah. It's crazy.
I don't know when you got to get out of here, but I was going to ask you what,
I got about 10 minutes.
Tell us about what you do in Alaska every year.
Oh, interesting topic. I have been going to Alaska on the Kenai River for many, many years. I was introduced to it by my friend Pete from Colorado. Pete used to own a fly shop there, Pete DuPont. And we sort of started going up when we were younger, maybe early 30s. And it was like a big deal to, buy the plane ticket. And we slept in basically a tough shed for the first few years, like no mattress, I think the mattress killed my back. So I ended up sleeping in all my clothes on the floor. I made this luxurious custom nest on the floor because I couldn't sleep on the mattress because it was blowing my back out. It was like a banana bed, and I've just been going up there for years and years and years. And at first we got fishing guides and we would fish 3 days, every other day because we couldn't afford it, and then slowly, and then eventually we bought a drift boat and we started going on our own. And then that led to another, now I have a power boat up there that I keep up there. And I go up and have friends fly in and we just have a big fish off, and it's pretty fun. But this, I believe, is my last season in Alaska.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I've done it for so many years and it's oddly becoming, it's not as exciting as it once was, right? 20 years ago, it was like the unknown. And I'm not saying I got it figured out 100% dialed in, but I can pretty much smell the air and figure out what's going on. Like I know where to be, when,
Mm.
that kind of thing. And it's gotten more and more and more crowded. There's more and more power boats. Of course, I'm part of that, but I'm ready to just clean it out. And I do this from time to time in my life. I just clean it out and start a new process of discovery. It's part of why I think I was always so attracted to guiding, because especially floating down a river, right? It's like the next bend, the next corner, the next mile, the next section down. It's always new, right? It's always what's coming. And then you get to check it out for a second, and then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I get sort of like, it's like the end of the road, and I just douche the whole thing and start a new process.
Yeah, you're kind of like where you were with your business. You're
Yeah. So it's time for that.
My uncle's in Fairbanks. I don't know how that geographically relates to where you go, or not. Yeah, Fairbanks.
Yeah, well, this is on Kenai Peninsula.
Okay.
So I think Fairbanks is the center of the state, and then Kenai is like borderline southeast Alaska, getting down in there. I mean, it's south central, basically.
Yeah, I haven't been up there, but he's always telling me I should come up.
Yeah. I mean, secretly, I wish I had my pilot's license, a bush plane, unlimited bank account, cabin on some river somewhere.
You remember Tyler was talking about the guy who's got the plane up there in Alaska, because he worked on crab boats forever.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what he said about this guy, other than if you're ever up there, you should try to find him and let him take you wherever.
Yeah. Seemed like an interesting guy.
Yeah, I should, John, I'll introduce you to Pat if you want to meet him, because I'm interested in this idea to do with businesses, and I think Pat would be someone that would be great to collaborate. And
yeah, and I'm not talking like multi-gazillion dollar deals, but I'm sure there's other guys like me that are retired but like addicted to the process. I love the process. I love seeing you like, oh, I have 5 trucks, but I want to have 40. Like that process to me is so much fun. That's the ride, right? That's why when you're an entrepreneur, that's what you get addicted to, is a lot of people fail, but then if you succeed, the lessons that you learn along the way are invaluable. And it's, I'd love to do it. I'd love to meet him.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to be a part of it and glean some knowledge off you guys too.
Yeah. It's, and I don't even think it's like necessarily like I know what to do, but to be able to bounce it around with a group of people that have had successes in other kinds of businesses, but the process is still, like I said, mostly the same, which would be fun.
Yeah, I'm already thinking of another guy too that would probably be really good, because he's like 15 years into business here with a pretty successful business.
Yeah.
So it'd be like,
like I just got to come up with a name, for it, and you could do it. You could do it on FaceTime if you couldn't get everybody together, but I think the most valuable thing is to get everybody together. Just kind of like the format of this podcast, where it's like there is no format.
Yeah.
Other than if someone's like, have you ever been to Mastermind? Do you know what that is?
No, I guess not. Like I know of the term mastermind, but I don't know if there's
a mastermind group here in town, and one person runs it or a couple guys run it, but generally people get up and they talk about their business, and it's a networking environment, but it's also can be problem solving in a way, but it doesn't have the like investment, channel to it. It's just kind of talky, Betty Crocky, like la 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 all the time. And you just see people like come in, repeat the same thing over and over, and it got kind of monotonous for me. I was like, yeah, like I'd be more interested.
Like, what are the next steps?
Yeah, I'd like, let's open that taco bar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's what that's how I know Pat is. Like, they call it the investors group. They meet once a month, and it's generally geared towards real estate.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes someone will speak, and sometimes it's just open discussion. But it's being in the room can be valuable just to hear what people are doing with different deals and stuff. But then another buddy Ryan that does it, we've said that too. We're like, kind of want to like take it to the next level now, because after a while it's like it can, not that I'm saying it's not helpful, but it can feel like just a bunch of mental masturbation after a while.
Yeah.
But if we sat down like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, like, what do you guys
Yeah.
think? And
Yeah. It would be great fun.
Yeah.
And even the feedback for you, right? It's not, I'm telling you what to do. It's kind of like, this is what I might do. And then you just get to take all that soup and make your own decision.
Yeah. So cool. The other guy I'm thinking of, he said he's part of this accountability group, and they'll pick like one guy or two guys, and they pick something they're struggling with in their business. Like, mm-hmm. I'm having an issue with, and then you pass it to each guy. Mm-hmm. It's like, by the time it gets back to you, you usually realize you were like 5 questions away from what the real issue is.
Yeah.
But you're picking the most obvious thing you can see.
Yeah.
But you see down below that this is the real issue, and that's just the stem
managing people in those environments, becomes almost an art. Mm-hmm. And understanding that people really just want recognition and a clean process for them to feel successful. And a lot of times people who are the manager or the person in charge of you got to that position just by not being a fuck up for 10 years. Doesn't mean they're a good people manager. Mm-hmm. But people that are really good people managers are able to sit down with you. And I mean, I came up with this process where, we had job descriptions and we would go over them every year, or every 6 months. Excuse me. But you would line out basically, this is your job, right? And everyone was in the room that works with you. This is what you do. This is your secondary responsibilities. So when you're not doing this, you're helping with this. Mm-hmm. And it was just like psychotically effective. It was unbelievable. Yeah. Like, I basically didn't have to do anything unless there was a conflict. If there's a conflict, then we would get everyone back together and say, Joey's having a problem with this. Should Joey continue to do this, or should we move it over to Bob? Bob, do you have the capacity, and do you want to do this? It's kind of, there's many books written about this stuff, but it's a self-regulating process where basically everyone's watching everyone else. And if there's a problem, they almost know the process of what to do themselves. It doesn't get into this like walled off, like, well, I'm here at 7 every day and Joey comes in at 10 and nobody ever says anything. And then, like this sort of like conflict thing where it becomes super hyper cohesive. And people are like, hey, like, I see you're struggling with that. Maybe I have a little extra capacity over here. I could help you out. And then if that person is not naturally inclined to really be doing that process, and Bob is, eventually when we have our little meeting, people are going to say, well, Bob really helped me out with this. And Bob really likes to do that. And Bob's really good at it. So let's take this off this job description and give it back to Nancy, because Nancy's really good at that and it aligns with her skills. And all of a sudden Bob's crushing it and the other guy's happy too. It's like crazy. It works so good. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah.
You were telling me about Aleworks the other day when I was talking about restaurants, and then a day later, one of the owners, there's 5 owners, because I ate there the other night and I asked how to get in contact with the owner, and he said there's 5 of them. But they did give me a card. So one of the owners was getting interviewed, and he said that anyone that works at the Aleworks, it was 3 weeks or 3 months is their onboarding process. Mm-hmm. But they have the employee go through every single job.
Perfect.
And even if they're only going to be the bartender, or they're only going to be a host or a waitress, they need to know what everyone in the kitchen's doing. Mm-hmm. all the cleaning staff, everyone. So they see every piece of the puzzle and they don't just look at their one. But that place is, as far as I can see, which is mostly observational, but everyone has said it, like, massively successful and has been for quite a long time.
And I gave you that feedback that people, and I say, "Oh, where'd you go to eat?" And they're like, "Aleworks, it's awesome."
Yeah.
Every person says that.
Yeah.
Every person I've ever met says that.
The restaurant, like the food comes out like this.
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest restaurant in the state, I think.
And it's good.
The most tables. Has the most tables and most.
And
like,
it's good.
capacity.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah.
I got to go.
All right, man. Thank you.
John, thank you.